Welcome to Glazed Over,
a podcast for business tips, painting tricks, and gabbing with friends.
We're your hosts, Amy Williams
and Christine Steele, and we're so glad you're here.
Hey, Christine.
Hi, Amy. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I am so excited about today's episode.
Me too. We have the absolute honor of having my work wife, my business bestie, Bre Hamberger, new last name alert. She is the general manager of Chesapeake Ceramics, an all-around wealth of information about pretty much everything. She's got a, what's the right word here? A master's in ceramics. Is that the right thing? She's nodding. Correct. So that's right. And we're going to pick her brain today about a lot of things, as many things as we can, but we're going to focus on like some stoneware stuff and some clay stuff. And we're excited. Bre, welcome. Why don't you, let's ease on into this, mostly because my coffee's not fully emptied yet. And tell us kind of like what your new-ish, you've been at Chesapeake now. It's been a while, but what is kind of your position over there? What have you been doing?
Sure. Absolutely. So my official title is General Manager of Chesapeake Ceramics. And so basically what that means is I spend a lot of time making sure the warehouse does what it needs to do, how it functions. We streamlined a lot of things. Chesapeake was under new ownership as of about, I don't know, a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, probably closer to 2 years. They came in and wanted to really make some serious changes and invest a lot of money and time and energy into making Chesapeake a top tier supplier. So we have implemented scanners. So everything that we have here has a barcode on it. And when our pullers or our pickers are picking the items, they scan everything. So the scanner tells them if they're picking the right item or the wrong item. We still make some mistakes, but we went from about an 80% pulling rate to about a 99.2% pulling rate. So it's really increased our ability to pull accurately. We've updated a bunch of our packaging. We went from, I think it was 10% breakage to about 1 to 2% right now, which is also really great. But I think our biggest kind of pat on the back that we've worked really hard on is changing our shipping times. During the busy season, people were waiting like a week to get their products from us, sometimes even longer. And now we try really, really hard. If you place an order before noon, we'll ship it out the same day. Now, do we do that on Mondays after a busy weekend? No, we don't. But we get about 80% of those done. And so, and then they go out the next day. So it's right at about 24-hour turnaround time when we're super busy. Like we'll be caught up today from the weekend. But it's always, a big goal for us. The leadership at Chesapeake, and our owners really care a lot about the customer experience and getting the stuff that you want unbroken and as fast as you can get it is their goal. And it will always be their goal, which is pretty cool because there's no question about what we do, and how we do it. And so really having those core values being an important part of what we do is pretty cool. The other kind of thing that I get to do that's really fun is I do a lot of the new product development and making products that we think are going to sell really well in the studios. And our first release under this new ownership was our Stoneware line, which is kind of the perfect segue into.
Yeah, you're kind of doing our job for us.
I know. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
She can't help it.
It just slid right in.
Absolutely can't help it. She's trying to threaten me at any point. Tell us about the stoneware.
Sure. Absolutely.
How many shapes are we dealing with here?
That's a great question. I don't even think I know. I think it's 20.
I feel like it's around 20.
Yeah, I think it's 20. But basically,
now I'm taking over her job. It's 20.
It's 20. Great. Basically what we did is we looked at the stoneware that was currently in the market and looked for gaps and holes of things that we needed to kind of round out that experience. And the biggest thing that I saw is texture. There wasn't nearly enough texture in the stoneware pieces that were available for the PYOP market. Now, we know that stoneware glazes love texture. They change shape, they change colors. It just adds so much dimension when we have texture on our pieces. And so because we're a PYOP market and we're not making our own pieces necessarily, then we have to add that texture in. If not, we're never going to get it. And you can only do so much with surface decoration until you're out of ideas. But what you can't do is create that texture afterwards easily.
Yeah.
And so that's really what we focused on, of making sure that was a priority. And our new pieces have sold very, very well. There's not a singular piece that isn't really selling, which is awesome. And we are currently working on another release of some less basics and more stuff that you want to use that may be low fire, but could really be better suited in stoneware. Those are the current things that I'm tackling right now. Like, go ahead.
Well, so Christine's studio does stoneware. So I'm kind of like, I'm at this point looking to her to kind of weigh in here.
I got to tell you, so I have like 3 shelves of like areas of stoneware, and those textured bowls that you're talking about, I got those in and they sold within a week. And I was actually upset because, I mean, bad business, but I was upset because I was like, I'm sorry, I didn't get to paint one. And then I ordered more and they sold. So it got to a point where I'm like, I'm just going to make a list of things I want to paint now, because the only thing I have at my house is stoneware. All the other pieces are for samples, but they're like, oh, this is cute. Are you going to set this out? I'm like, no.
Yeah. You're a big tea drinker, right? So you've got all your tea mugs.
Yeah.
And what do your customers like to do? Like, what do you find is the most popular piece in stoneware?
They love the mugs because they love to layer it and do the different textures so that you can see how the glazes move on there. Now, we do get a lot of questions for what can we put outside? And that, like, so, you know, I'm going to do like a little, and the other thing, planters, because that's actually just my request. So, but the
girl, they're on my table right now.
Give them to me.
I actually just opened up some samples, because the process back and forth to get any piece made is 7,000 samples that we ship across the ocean. And so I have some, I'm looking at them right now. So I have
it's so rude that you will not give us an exclusive look at this.
Okay. I'm actually just like looking. Can you just like put some caps on or something so I can see the reflection?
I know, right?
Right. So both of them have texture. Ooh. One of them is more textured than the other. But they are both very hot trending pieces right now. So I'm pretty pumped about that. There's also, I can't tell you anything else.
It's okay.
But I'm looking. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 samples over there.
It's okay. It'll be at my studio soon. And
well, in
a year,
6 to 8 months.
Yeah, it's fine.
Or probably like more like 10.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's exciting. And so, can we get into sort of like, Christine touched on it a bit, but like glaze layering and kind of best practices there, because I shared with y'all before we started recording that I am actually the heaviest hand in the industry in the South even, and I can't for the life of me get it right on stoneware. I've ruined many shelves. I have ruined many mugs. I can't get it right. And you tell me all the time, but why don't you try one more time to tell me best practices for layering glazes?
Sure. A little bit of it is starting out small. So Mako has over 100 stoneware glazes. I don't know the exact number. But it's hard to commit to having that number of glazes and trying to understand that number of glazes. So I like to give people kind of if I were to start out, here's a palette that I would consider, because all of the glazes work really well together and they're pretty stable. And then once you have that kind of core, then you can go, oh, let me try this new glaze. And then you kind of figure out how your glazing style works with that particular glaze. I taught a Stoneware for studios when I was at Chesapeake the first time, before I worked at Mako, and it was pretty successful in that I think it was 5 glazes that we used, a little bit of everything. But that is probably the biggest nugget of information that I think people start out with too many glazes because they're all beautiful. And you're going to own them all, but starting small and mastering those is better than just buying 17 random ones, because they all act very differently. So for you, Amy, in particular, with the amount of coats and how heavy your coats are, I would honestly recommend grabbing a tumbler or something and just doing bands of color and leaving a space, and starting at the bottom and doing 1 coat, and then the next one up doing 2 coats, 3 coats. So that
what do y'all call that again? It's
like just like a test tile.
Yeah, but I see, to gauge I see.
Yeah.
But you call it something when you're reseeding the glazes? Is that what you're calling? Yeah, yes. Okay. But I see. You're saying like to actually test. I hate testing.
I know. But I'm saying like make sure it is not a usable cup. So do 1 band, leave a space, do another band.
I see.
And so that you can feel, because I think for you, it's going to end up, you might be a 1 coat painter. I don't know that I've ever painted 3 coats on any Stoneware piece I've ever done.
Yeah.
Most of what I paint is a 1 coat. And if it is a light, then it's usually a 2 coat. That's because I paint with the biggest fan brush humanly possible. Mako's big, fluffy,
it's beautiful,
delicious, the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. But that is the only thing I paint Stoneware with. And so it just holds so much glaze, and I'm slapping it on there like Picasso. Who's that messy guy? Pollock. What's his name? Pollock.
Jackson Pollock.
I do have an undergraduate degree in art, but
it's just been a while. Can I put you on the spot glaze wise? Sure. And because you're talking about these, maybe you start with 5 glazes. Can you rattle off what those 5 might be?
I mean, you could go with any 5, but the 5 that I taught when I taught class is Norse Blue.
So good.
Amber Quartz.
I feel like I'm like, good answer.
I know. Yeah, I feel like we're on Family Feud.
Norse Blue, Amber Quartz, Sea Salt.
Yeah, you do love that one.
I would switch that now for Sandstone, but Sandstone wasn't out when I originally made the list. We can't talk about that right now.
Okay. Forget I asked.
Well, no, we can go back to it, but we can't right now. Okay. Galaxy.
Yep.
And then Copper Jade. That's 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh no, I'm missing one.
No, it's 5.
Oh, 5. Yeah. And,
what I learned at Mako, what's the pink one? Pink quartz? Like that's the one that everybody loves, but it runs like crazy, right?
Go ahead, Christine.
I was just gonna say our go-to is lavender mist. A lot of people grab that.
You're about go hold that thought. I told you could talk, but now I'm saying that you can't.
So, do you see what I deal with, you guys?
That's it.
Okay.
I'm literally holding it.
So Norse Blue is what I like to call an interchangeable glaze because it has like 4 siblings and they basically have the same base glaze and they just have different colorants. So I would like to give you those, right? So Norse Blue is interchangeable with Coral Sands, which is a beautiful little peachy color.
Oh my God. The Instagram post I'm going to have to make for this is going to take me a billion years. Okay. Coral Sand. Got it.
Coral Sands, Lavender Mist, Frosted Lemon.
Yep.
You can go faster.
No, I can't go faster because I got to remember what they are. And I've got my handy dandy little Mako book.
Those are so handy.
Incredible. And Raspberry Mist. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. Yeah. So those 5 glazes are pretty much interchangeable. Mm-hmm. And so if you find a layering technique that works with one of them, then it's probably going to work with all of them. Christina, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I love that. And you hit all the ones that I think are pretty popular. It's really nice. I'm excited for other people to find the love for it, because not only are you finding the love for your own studio, but then you get to spread it to others. And it is just like the best thing is that I also find, I don't know if this sounds silly, but my customers, sometimes the bougie customers that come in, and do you ever have that like moment where you know that if you set something up like on a higher price, it's going to sell because there's, I mean, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that.
Type of person.
Yes, it is. And it's so funny because that's the best thing I love about Stoneware is that you get to have this isn't for everyone. Mm-hmm. This is like a higher price because it's a different thing. We fire it differently. We don't fire it as often. It's not for, it is for everyone, but the price point might be a little bit luxury. I get to push them towards that. And they're like, oh, I'm just going to make 2 of these then. And I love it because I'm like, okay, I get to take the sales from it, but it gives them, something to be excited about too, because if they painted like 5 different things and they're like, I really like how these glazes, I'm learning everything. And I'm like, you know what, here's something different. Would you like to try this? And, it's just fun to be able to add something extra to the studio that they're in the comfort zone. I did have one question for you, Bre. When we were talking about the testing of the tiles, how would you recommend to a customer on their glaze, like how to, like, do you start with them just saying do 2 coats, do 3 coats? Like, what do you, when they're painting, how do you guide that since they're new to it?
Great question. Mako's recommendation is between 2 and 3 coats. So if you are layering glazes together, you want no more than 4 coats, right? So 2 of one glaze, 2 of another, or some combination of that. Now, you have to decide what's going to work in your studio. Mm-hmm. The less advanced you are, the less coats you want to tell your customers, right? Till you get a little bit of a feel for it. Because if you tell them 3 coats and you've taught your people to be super heavy-handed, you're going to have a lot of movement happening on your pieces. It also depends on the quality of the brushes that you have. If you have super crappy fan brushes, or if you only have square shaders in your studio as your big brushes, then it's definitely going to be 3 coats because you're painting a large coverage area with a shader brush that's designed to take glaze off, right? And so I have a hard time pigeonholing, you need to do 2 coats or you need to do 3 coats. There are a lot of factors there. And so it's a little bit dependent on, honestly, if I were implementing Stoneware into my studio now, as many years as I've taught Stoneware, I would teach it to your employees and see what it looks like. Tell some of them 2 coats, tell some of them 3 coats, and see what happens. Because that might help some of your factors of, are you using good brushes? Now, with all factors being ideal, you've got good brushes, they've got good instructions, 2 to 3 coats, depending on how they operate.
Can I ask a stupid question?
Sure.
It's going to be really stupid, so just bear with me.
Okay.
You know how, like, let's say a customer has done something on their low fire piece, and you throw it in the kiln, you pop it out, and you're like, and you can kind of fix it up a little bit and throw it back in for a second go. I know that the Stoneware is going to vitrify. Like, are you still able to kind of do that if you have to? Like if maybe they don't put enough coats on that first time and it looks patchy or something, can you add more glaze and put it back in for a second fire?
Sure. So the easy answer is yes, you can. The more complicated answer is you can, and you need to know that that glaze has already been vitrified, and the second time you fire it, it will run more. So if you were putting it in trying to fix a run, you're probably not going to be successful. If you're trying to add additional glazes because something is happening and you're trying to add more glaze on, then yes, that's probably going to work. But you need to know that it will run more.
So really, that wasn't like a hugely stupid question.
No, not at all. That's a very common question.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
I'm here for the people, the dumb people.
There's no such thing as a dumb question.
Well,
Now, and what I do personally is I train my my employees to look at the like you were saying, like how thick they put it on and everything like that. And it's also for me a good way to go around to my customers and say, you know what, I really want your mug to be like kind of a little bit like droopy. Like let's put another coat on. And what I'm really saying is you paint like the little grandma that wants to do like the eyelashes really dainty. Can you throw on another one? Or I have other heavy handers that I'm like, I know how you paint. Only do one coat, please. And then I will watch them, and because really their one coat is like 7. But it's also a good time for that customer and employee or whatever you want to. If you're a one man ship, I don't know how I was going to say that. And you get to have that interaction for that, like hospitality. Like you get to say that moment to be like, I'm watching you. You're doing awesome. Let me. So that's another really kind of fun part is that you can bring that in there.
Yeah, especially you're selling this thing as like a luxury item. They get to have the luxury service, which is just makes it like even more special.
Yeah.
One of the CCSA members gave a really good, just an example of saying to your customer, if you can hear your brush pulling, you don't have enough glaze in your brush. And I find that is the most helpful in stoneware because like people always are like, well, what's a coat? A coat is not, you put it on and you kind of move it around until there's nothing left on your brush. A coat is a thick brush with a lot of stuff on it that you can't hear, and then another thick brush with a lot of stuff on it that you can't hear.
Huh.
You can hear mine. It's like being slapped across the face.
I'm going to have to listen
My
to that.
coats are too thick. Huh. Okay. So what's the right now, like your best seller at Chesapeake, Bre? Stoneware wise.
Oh, man.
Come on.
I knew you were going to ask.
And yet you weren't ready. You can't tell me off the top of your head.
I cannot, mostly because so many of them they're very close in sales. If I had to guess, I would say probably the Cascadeware mug. It's like a wavy mug. That's CXS 103.
Okay.
And if I had to pick another one, probably the rustic carve mug, CXS 110.
So everybody's loving the mugs, is what you're telling me.
Yeah.
And I will tell you something too. I was actually nervous because I thought I ordered the wrong thing. It does not say the stoneware on the bottom.
Correct.
And that is something that threw me off. And I train my employees so much to be like, listen, if they're painting something with regular glaze and you flip it over and it says stoneware, like you have to stop that. You have to explain that. So that was kind of one of those things where it's good to know, but it's so beautiful. Like I don't let that stop. Like it's grab all of them because I want one.
Yeah, why? Can I ask why that is, Bre?
Sure, absolutely. So we kind of wavered back and forth a lot on whether or not we were going to stamp stoneware in the bottom of these pieces. And it really has less to do with the PYOP market and more to do with the general stoneware market at large, is that we have finished ware producers that will buy wholesale. businesses that are trying to make a living just like everyone else. And they buy these pieces, paint them, and then resell them at farmers markets, or they buy them and sell them to restaurants, things like that. And they don't want the word stoneware on the bottom. And so we made that choice for the larger community as a whole. Now, there are some things that we've heard feedback, and that's one of the things that Chesapeake is really good at. If you see a problem, don't just be grouchy about it in your own studio or your own house, or
Chatter.
go on Chatter or wherever. I have to tell you right now, I'm not on Chatter very often. But if you have an issue, most people have my cell phone number. Give me a call. My cell phone number is 515-230-6664. I'm not joking. That's my cell phone number.
Bre, this is going on the internet.
I don't care. I've literally stood up in front of thousands of people and gave out my cell phone number. You'd be surprised.
Lord have mercy.
As much spam as you think I would. But if
now you're about to get even more.
Great. Fantastic. Because then we can continue to be better. So we had a couple of comments of people who were like, hey, there's no way to tell if this is stoneware other than if you read the word that says stoneware. But that aside, how are we supposed to know this stoneware? And so we've put little circles on each of our pictures that say, hey, this is stoneware. We got some more feedback that the box should say stoneware bigger somewhere.
I like that.
So we're looking at how to change the artwork on the packaging. We're also looking at changing the color of the writing on the packaging. These are all things that long term we have to figure out. And the only way we can figure that out is with good feedback from everyone. That kind of, it takes a village. So that's what we're doing.
Nice. Wow. I'm still not over the whole phone number bit, but I'll get there.
Just don't put it in your Instagram post. You got to make them listen to the podcast.
Okay. That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, just make them listen to the podcast. Because we're 30 minutes in? If they're 30 minutes in, they deserve the number. It's fine.
I'm sorry. We have fans, Bre. Okay?
I know.
People are listening. I've received 2 emails that say they like it.
Wow. Well,
Shout out Aaron Rassiopi.
Well, she already has my cell phone number.
I know. Wow. Okay. Well, can we can we talk about clay for a bit, or is there anything else in stoneware? Actually, I have a question for Christine specifically.
I was like, I have a couple more things that I want to cover in stoneware, but let's talk to Christine first.
Christine, do you have a flux in your studio for your customers?
Not yet. And
I'm kind of scared.
I was afraid of it, but I will tell you, watching like the peacock technique, I would like to, but not yet. I am afraid, but I shouldn't be afraid. It's awesome. So I feel like
it is awesome. Yeah.
I don't want you to judge me. So I'm like, no, it's cool. I'll get there.
I believe in you. Okay, Bre, what were the other points that you would like to make?
Wow. So Christine, to talk about flux for a second, flux is one of the things that I would not judge you at all if you had flux behind the counter and wasn't just out on the shelf.
Okay.
So if you had any sort of reservations that you didn't feel like you were really doing stoneware because you don't have flux in your studio, that's not the case at all. I think a great way to kind of slowly implement that into your studio is to keep it behind the shelf. And if you see someone that you can tell is trying to create a drippy situation, then you can say, hey, I actually have a product. We don't let everyone use it. But it will kind of help all your glazes melt together even better. And that's a great kind of like slide in, and then you can start to get some people using it. And then you'll have people that are saying, hey, I really loved when I used flux last time. Can I use it again? And, so you'll slowly start to build. And that's that next layer, right? You could do a whole social media post of like, hey, we've got flux now. We've implemented it. We did some slight testing. Now we're implementing it in the studio at large. Come paint something and add flux to it. And that's a whole nother way to sell stoneware again without, laying all your chips all on the table all at the same time. Same with bringing in a new glaze. You've got 5 glazes to start out with. Every time you have a new glaze, that's the opportunity to promote Stoneware again. Versus if you start out with 25, it's less exciting. Hey, now we've got Norse Blue, or now we've got Lavender Mist. Come in and paint the new color.
Exclusive will always sell. Or limited, or
And I will, just for if you are bringing in different glazes to your studio, I highly recommend writing a date that you open the container on. And the reason why is because if no one uses it for like 3 years, and finally then it just to kind of keep a track of how often that's just my personal, I've learned that the hard way, but
I learned that you have cleaning the tread of the jar. It's just so stupid. Again, I'm sometimes really stupid, but cleaning the tread of the jar so that the seal can actually be tight makes a huge difference. Who knew? Yeah. Okay, Bre, moving on.
Oh, yeah.
Next point.
Kiln wash. We haven't talked about kiln wash really. We talked a little bit about it at Pottery Camp, actually. If you're not currently using Mako's kiln wash, I highly recommend that you give it a try for a couple of different reasons. But the biggest one is if you're doing stoneware, you have to kiln wash your shelves or have stoneware exclusive shelves, because your low fire biscuit is going to spit off weird stuff.
Oh, my bad. No. I meant when you take it off the shelf. So let me start the whole sentence over. I was just recently talking to a supplier about the advancer shelves, and they said that some of their customers were still complaining that they were getting the little piece that stuck to the shelf, even though there nothing ran and whatever. Correct. And I was saying, I bet they're using it for low fire and high fire, and something.
I would agree with that as well.
Okay, great. We got that.
One of the solutions to that is if you're going to use advancer shelves. Now, you don't want to have dedicated advancer shelves and for stoneware and for low fire, and I mean, unless you're rolling in all the cash, in which case, yeah, sure. But I'm not. I don't know if anybody else is. But you could use one side of the shelf for low fire and then flip it over and use the other side for stoneware.
That's what she's done for me, and it's been, yeah.
That is such a good idea.
She's a genius. Don't tell her I said that.
The other piece of it is, even with your regular shelves, as long as you have the thick, good shelves, not the super thin shelves that will warp over time, but the good, thick ones, you can kiln wash one side for low fire and one side for stoneware, as long as it's Mako's kiln wash, because Mako's kiln wash will never flake off. Once you fire it, it is one with the shelf. It is a peanut butter and jelly sandwich to the extreme. You are not getting those suckers apart. Other brands of kiln wash are designed that the kiln wash pulls off with the piece to save the piece. Mako's kiln wash is designed to save the shelf, not the piece. A piece, using Mako's kiln wash, a piece is going to stick to the shelf. Absolutely. But when it comes off, it's going to break the piece, but the shelf is going to remain intact. And there's a protective layer there. So you just scrape that off. And if you have any like little dings or whatever that come out of your shelf, Mako's kiln wash will fix that. You could have a giant gouge out of your shelf, put Mako's kiln wash on top of it, let it dry, flatten it out with a metal rib or something, let it dry, pour some more in there, scrape it off, let it dry, and it will totally fix a shelf that is busted up. Now, if it's cracked, you can't super glue them back together with it. But if there's a gouge out of it, it will fill in that gap. And I think that Mako's kiln wash makes stoneware accessible to more people, because if you're a heavy-handed Amy and a piece runs onto your shelf, yeah, that piece is ruined. You have lost that $5 piece. But what you haven't lost is your $50 shelf.
Yeah.
And so you just chip off that shelf, fill in the hole, try it again.
So I'm just looked up. So on Chesapeake, there is kiln wash. It is 16 ounce. Coming soon, about $8.79. How long will that, how many shelves will that do?
Great question. When I put kiln wash on a shelf, I literally pour it onto the shelf. I did this to Amy's shelves. when I flew down there for something, and I kiln washed all of her shelves in like 20 minutes. I
with a hotel key card, right?
I did. Yeah.
Christine's face.
Brush it on there with a super fluffy fan brush. Don't use a hotel key card. I was running late. A big fluffy fan brush, a nice thick coat. Leave it alone. That's
I went in, and I still have plenty left over for fixes and stuff. I mean, I feel like, I do have a smaller kiln than the traditional studio. I have a 1018, and is that right?
Yeah.
I get it confused with Bree's birthday, which is 1017. And
Aww. So cute.
I know, I'm so cute. But yeah, I mean, she did it quick, and I still probably have half a jar, and I have 8 shelves.
Yeah, I would say probably 6 shelves, 6 standard 1227 shelves for a pint.
I was gonna say that's unfair. I guess that was a hard question too, because they're different sizes and everything. The follow-up question on that is, do you have to come to Pittsburgh at any time? I'm just saying there's some shelves that we could test theories on. I'm just throwing that out there.
That's a great question. I was just recently in Pittsburgh last summer.
Rude.
Because I saw Pink and Brandy Carlisle. It was an incredible concert.
I almost went to that in August.
Yeah, that's the one I went to. It was hot as the devil. It was hot.
It was I'm so upset right now because for so many reasons, my kiln shelves and also because I missed it. I was so upset that my best friend and I were supposed to go. That's different. Now there's so much anger.
Is that the one where she flies through the air? She's like,
yeah, of course.
That is the craziest thing I've ever seen.
She's incredible. She's on my list.
I chose to go to convention and save money for that instead of Pink.
Oh, Christine, you put us between a rock and a hard place here.
That's exactly what happened. That is, I just want to go on record of how much I love CCSA. I'm just saying. There's anger there, but with love.
So what you're saying is that the CCSA should maybe have Pink perform at convention this year.
I mean, yeah.
It's only fair.
And then I'm going to bring my shelves and Bree's going to
there you go.
All of this. This is just a moment for me. This is my wish.
Wow.
Yeah, and this is just a call out for everyone listening to the podcast. If you've made it this far, you have Bree's phone number and the promise that if you bring your shelves to convention, she'll kiln wash them.
No.
Oh, can I tell a story? I'm sorry. I have to tell a story. Okay, a million years ago, I can't remember what year it was, 2019, 2018, I can't remember.
I think 18.
Dina calls and she says, hey, can you do this thing we're calling Pottery Improv at convention? It's going to be, Bree's going to be your co-host, and Julia McNair is going to be up there with y'all. And basically you'll just kind of host this painting thing. And I think there were like loose rules about we'll like call out instructions and whatever.
Oh God,
and when you give Bre a microphone, it's like her brain short circuits and she just starts talking. And within 15 seconds of starting this event, she says, if you
can I interrupt for one?
No, you can't. I'll give you can talk in a second.
We were trying to raise money.
I know. I'm about to say that. And she says, if you come up here and you donate to whoever we were giving the money to that year, believe big, then Amy will letter whatever you want on your piece. Actually, at first she said, come pay for her autograph. So God forbid Julie Cates and a couple other people have a mug with my signature on it. But then it turned into she'll letter whatever you want. I was put to work. We made like $300. I saw nothing of it.
Way more than $300.
Okay, well, I saw nothing
so much money.
And I was working.
So anyway, all of this to say. It was
my God.
incredible.
All this to say, I am giving Bre a taste of her own medicine. And then the best part is at the end, she was like, that's crazy. I have no idea how that happened. And I was like, I do. You told them I would do it.
That is such a good trick. That's like, man, that was crazy.
Wow. I'm so tired. Bre's like, I'm going to sleep so good tonight. And my hand is like clawed. Anyway, so back to whatever Bre was saying.
So wait, I'm going to interrupt again and cut Bre off again. We were just in St. Charles planning convention for this year, and Bre has no idea what's in store, what we're going to ask for. So maybe like be nice to each other because you're giving us really good ideas.
This is terrifying, and I love it. I love the
It was
witnessing.
so bad. I'm so sorry, Amy.
She's not. She loves it. You know how she got back at me? Now we've just turned it into to me telling stories. Bree got married this past October in a beautiful ceremony at the top of a ever-loving mountain, and she lied about
the tallest point in all of Virginia.
steepest
You
peak.
did such a good job.
She lied about how long the hike was going to be. She lied about how steep it was going to be. Lied about how long it was going to take, and it was
none of that.
every
I didn't
bit
lie
of
about
it.
any of it.
Okay.
I only told you what All Trails told me, which is that it was going to be a half mile up and a half mile
Christine,
back.
you ever
1,000
seen a
feet
liar,
elevation.
Christine? If you ever seen a liar, because she's in this little window.
Well, I will say this: if she told the truth, would have you have?
She would have.
Complicated question, Christine. And to
She
answer,
would've.
I would say I would have.
You'd have been madder.
No, I would have worn different shoes, I think, and maybe a different outfit. Imagine like being out on a trail on a Monday or whatever day it was. It was one of the holidays, federal holidays.
It was a
Being
Monday.
out on the trail, you've got your dog, you're loaded down with a pack, and then you're just watching people in wedding attire hike up beside you, huffing and puffing. I mean, it was like, I'm sure these people were like, who are, and we looked like a religious cult, like out for a day.
There were only 25 of us. It was very
Religious
small.
cult. Religious
That is
cult.
small. That's small.
Very small.
It was sweet.
The best of the best got invited. I apologize to all the people that didn't, but Amy did get invited.
Oh,
I was about to be like,
This is therapy, and I needed to get something off my chest.
okay.
I do have a similar question that popped in my head though.
Sure.
Not during hiking stuff, but so we were talking about how to make your piece like jerseys, when how like the little drippy and beautiful and everything. I've had people where they try to do detailed stuff on there, where they've tried to put flowers and they've tried to do other things. So like, what if you wanted to do more, I guess, detail-oriented designs? What kind of tricks can you recommend? Because I know there's certain things that don't work as well. That you can, I mean, obviously you don't want to put flux on something because then your flower is
Sure.
rough. So
So a couple of things. Number one, Mako has designed what are called the Stoneware gloss glazes, which are, think stroke and coats, but for stoneware. They've got the rainbow plus coral, pink, light green, dark green, a brown, and a black. And those will get you your base colors. If you want to draw flowers, but you want to be able to have it be stoneware, that's your go-to. Period. End of story. That's like stroke and coat, the equivalent to stroke and coat. Now, that being said, if the glaze is a matte glaze, meaning that it's not shiny, the surface is, that feeling you don't really
Dull.
want to touch.
yeah,
Yeah, dull, that's a great term. Those glazes typically do not move as much as a glossy glaze. So obviously nothing with crystals in it those are going to move like crazy. But something like, sorry, I'm looking at here my mats. So white matte, alabaster, lemon meringue, lilac matte, weather blue, satin patina sometimes moves a little bit. The dunes, stormy gray, those colors aren't going to move because they're a matte. They're pretty stable. They're not going anywhere. So you could theoretically put something on top of those.
okay. Now,
Like with the gloss glaze? Sorry, Christine. Put something, is that what you're
like
saying?
the gloss, yeah. So use, like if you wanted a color that isn't in the gloss land, let's say you really wanted the color of pink matte as your base. You could paint pink matte and then you could go in with pink gloss and red and white and create a Valentine's Day thing.
I see. Okay.
But those are good bases. I wouldn't do a lot of decorating with those because some of those are more translucent than others. But that's where the gloss glazes really shine, is if you want to do detail work on something. Nice.
Now, those matte colors. Now, I've had some people that they made 2 coats of the matte colors. They in the inside of a mug, and then they've come back and they said, I have coffee stains on it and that kind of stuff. Now that I know there's a clear gloss for stoneware. is that something like, do you recommend putting that like on the inside of anything? Or I mean, what do I recommend how do I fix their problems?
Well, coffee stains all sorts of things. You can look at any Pier 1 Target Walmart mug that you have. Coffee is a very acidic and stainy situation. Yep. And so the answer is it's some ceramic mug and it's going to get stained. The matte glazes typically get stained more because they're not cleaning it properly. Not necessarily a thing that you want to tell your customers because like, hey, you're a dirtball, clean your stuff better. But matte glazes have all those teeny tiny little ridges. That's what makes them matte, right? Something is shiny because the surface is like glass. And so it reflects off. A matte glaze has a bunch of little bubbles and consistencies which deflect the light, which make them look matte. That's what a matte glaze is. But all those little ridges are getting coffee in there and they're not getting those out. Also, over time, crazing, the coffee is going to get in between those little cracks, and that's also where you're going to see it. But the answer is no. I wouldn't clear glaze it. That's not gonna change anything.
I think I should just tell them to drink tea instead of coffee, like a normal.
Or that like they can't have everything they want. That's what I want to tell.
That's awesome. Now with clay, I have had different artists in the area. They have made me stoneware forms. And then I've actually, what's really neat is that some of the luxury, I say, make art on someone else's art. And we have had really success with that. And it's kind of fun because we have, even if you have your own pottery wheels, your instructor, it's really cool. People create relationships with them and you can say, hey, this is my instructor's name is Shane. Shane made this. It's in stoneware. Would you love to have something that Shane made that you get to paint? Now, if you use different clays, is that something why do we have the clear? That was what I'm building towards.
Sure. So stoneware clear can be used for all sorts of things. So you could do gloss glazes, paint something just like you normally would stroking coat. And the parts that don't have glaze, you would just clear glaze over the top of.
Okay.
Also, if you're doing any silk screening, then you would want to put a clear glaze over the top. If not, it's that rough texture. But in the same way that you use clear glaze for low fire pieces as well. Okay. You just don't need to clear glaze the color by itself.
I feel like that was a very long question to say, do I want to put it on plain clay? I was like, I brought Shane into it, all this stuff. I'm so sorry, but
Shane sounds great.
I want to make art on someone else's art.
Same. I have a question about how you
prefer. I make the art and then someone else makes art on top of it. We tried to do a collab piece once, didn't we, Amy?
No, we could if you want.
I think maybe for never mind.
Maybe for convention.
Yeah,
we do. Yeah. I have a question to Christine about Shane. How are you pricing those?
So what I do, I think we make it like $50 and I pay him hourly, so kind of, and then how I did it for other artists is that they sold them to me for $5, and they just whipped out a bunch of them. And it just works like same $50.
Totally, yeah.
It's definitely, I know that the way that we do our pricing for our stoneware, I think we times it by 8. Personally, in our studio, we're all inclusive. And our normal low fire is by 7. So we try to get that little bit. But it's just kind of neat because again, you just and it's also something that if somebody wants to try it, I can discount it as a gift kind of thing. If I want to, you can use that as a tool because it's pennies for you because
sure.
Clay is wonderful.
That's cool. Does Chesapeake sell clay, Bre? Oh.
I just got a really pretty high fire clay from them, and it's gorgeous. We did little heart bowls for Valentine's Day. We're doing a wheel class, and then for ghosting. And if they don't make anything, then they just get these little heart bowls that are high fire, and Shane made them. So It's
God,
pretty.
we got to get Shane on the
Shane.
podcast.
Yeah,
I know.
sounds like Shane's the dude.
He's so awesome. I'm so lucky. He's actually he was just graduated high school, and he's a great teacher, and he's bettering his life and going to school. And I say that's great as long as it's near the studio.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
There you go.
I like it.
Well, I'm trying to pay attention to the time. We've been talking for a bit, but I mean, we have touched on clay for a second. Is there anything you want to talk about when it comes to clay?
I mean, not necessarily. I mean, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. But
Okay.
I'm trying to think of some things that I've heard other people. I know people are scared of clay. And it's the same thing as stoneware. It's a great opportunity to try something new, whether it's pottery wheels, hand building. I would like to start getting into doing hand building as a walk-in. I have a lot of different forms, a lot of things like that, but I just think it's fantastic that there was an item on Chesapeake's website that said Bre's favorite, because Beyonce, when snap, when they say this is the one I want, it is literally like I just love that. So do you have any, going through the different clays that Chesapeake offers, is there, other than Bre's favorite, can you suggest anything for the high fire, something that can be a little bougie and get something different for the studio?
sure.
Is there just a section on the website that just says Bre's favorites and it's all her? Because you should really be doing that.
There is not, and that makes me feel uncomfy on my insides.
Well, get over it.
But mostly I put that up there as Bre's favorite because I was tired of people calling me, and the only thing they would ask is, which clay do I need to buy? And so then I finally just put it up there, and I actually put it up there like when I worked at Chesapeake the first time. And then they just left it up there even when I didn't work here anymore. And then when I came back, I was like, oh, well, it's still up there. And so it's just kind of lived there. So low fire, obviously, the Kentucky Medworks, I really enjoy that clay. For stoneware, the WC 436 is the wheel throwing clay body that I use. That's a Laguna product, and it has grog in it so that it dries a little bit more consistently. It's less likely to warp and move and do some other things. I also really like the color of it. I think it's the closest to Mako's stoneware slip that they use for their bisque, and bisque as well. We use the same slip as Mako, and so because we wanted to make sure that it was 100% compatible with everything, and so it's the same exact slip as Mako's. Standard clay 153, that is actually the thesis research clay body that I used in grad school. It's a really great clay. It is a tan, it's not white. But I enjoy that clay. But my favorite standard clay is clay 112, and it's a tan with a black speck in it. Now for a coffee mug or something like that, you have to be really careful on what kind of glazes that you use. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend it for foodware in a studio situation, but personally, as an artist, that is my favorite clay body because it's beautiful.
Why would you not recommend it for foodware in a studio?
So those little black specks are manganese, which over time, if you don't use a good glaze and good glaze practices with that, you can get some pinholing over time and some leaking and some stuff. So. But if I was going to make a sculpture or an outdoor piece, it's the most beautiful clay.
Good to know.
Awesome.
Wow. I feel like we've covered a lot of ground.
Yes.
I feel like I got to tell some embarrassing stories.
Yes.
I feel like I have a crush on Shane. Wait, he's 18, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Whew. And Yeah. Is there, Christine, do you have any other questions for our Bre?
I don't think so, but now that we put the number out there, I mean, I could call.
I mean, yes.
Next time Pink is coming to Pittsburgh, if you don't come to my studio, I'm going to be extremely offended.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not going to do anything with that being offended, but I will be. So,
yeah. Well, I did hear, I'm pretty sure Taylor also came to Pittsburgh.
she did. Yeah. She actually tried to come to my studio, but it was closed at the time. So, you know.
Yeah.
And you didn't.
And you wouldn't open for her. No. Why would
What?
you?
I was like, Taylor. I'm like,
You could have called me. I'd have drove up for that. Not for your kiln shelves, but I'd have drove up to teach Taylor and Travis how to paint a thing.
I actually, sometimes when there's like comedians and stuff, like they film in Pittsburgh often, and I actually fully send them a message on Facebook or on Instagram, and I'm like, hey, you know, I'm close to Pittsburgh. If you ever want to come in, you can paint something for free, bring your kids or whatever, or just, you know, marry me. Just options.
Either one.
Yeah.
Both?
And no one's taking me up, but I still throw it out there because
absolutely. You never
One
know.
day, one of them will, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I do have one question for Bre / Chesapeake in general. You've given us your 5 favorites of what a studio should start with. Would we ever see that as a class pack where you could buy the 5 favorites and a case of Bre's favorite mugs or whatever, like your favorite pieces to start with, so that a studio that is scared can buy the package and start and make samples and kind of feel it out before they really dig in with everything?
It's a great question. I would not want to pigeonhole someone into a kit like that because it would end up being the same price. And I think it gets rid of a lot of the flexibility of picking kind of what.
I think you're forgetting that people really care what you think. And if they're going to call you and you're going to recommend them anyway, why not just save yourself that half an hour on the phone with this person?
Well, because that half an hour is important because I usually answer 17 other questions.
Of course. Well, in the receipt for Bre's favorites is your phone number and they can still call you. I think you're just like not leveraging your name as hard as you could be.
Well, the reason that I ask is that Mako just released their new glazes, right? And they came in a little cute pack. And I was talking to someone who said, well, I bought the starter pack, so I'm going to try those. And I said, what starter pack?
That's not the starter pack.
And they said they bought that. And I was like, oh, like some of those are really testy. Like the Ivy and the Nimbus run really.
Well, also they're not food safe.
Yeah.
They're not designed for dinnerware. I mean, they're food safe. They're not dinnerware safe.
I was like, ugh, like if I curated a pack, I would not, that would not be it. So it's just a suggestion. And I think it would make it less intimidating for people to be like, this is what Bre says we should try. I'm going to try it. And then they'll get good results and then they'll buy all the rest of it.
Yeah.
That's on tape. This is being recorded.
I was just going to say, I was like, I think maybe that needs to come from the top. So I think you should recommend that to the powers that be.
Do you want to give us?
Yeah. Do you want to shout out their phone numbers now so we can do that? I mean, honestly though, like where outside of your phone number, what is the easiest place for people to contact Chesapeake and say things like this or ask questions or whatever?
Sure, absolutely. So on our website, let me get to that part. So as soon as you get to the website, there is a giant button at the very front that says click here to engage. What's it say? To engage our customer care team. And that will set you up to submit a ticket. You can go anything from here's your damage report to I don't know where my shipment is to I want to complain about this or I want to tell you how awesome your staff is doing. And that goes into our system and then we kind of farm that out to whoever we think needs to handle that question. But that's the central location. It's on the website. So you can always find it. You don't have to think about what's that email or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's all set up and it answers all of the questions. It gives us an option for you to put in your phone number because sometimes it just can't be answered in an email. Totally. Don't call me unless it's an emergency because I hate being on the phone. But some things you just have to be on the phone for.
You gave your phone number.
Oh no, absolutely. Because
everything's an emergency.
Yeah, of course. My kiln's breaking down. Whatever. Yeah. Did I fire this wrong? Like whatever it is. Like some of those things just can't be answered over an email, but a lot of them can be, specifically if you've got pictures, things like that. That's really the place to upload those and get those questions answered.
Yeah, nice. I just uploaded the or one on the website, and it said we will not be undersold.
Correct.
Do you want to talk about that before we sign off of this? Like, do you want to?
Absolutely. So we will be the lowest price in the industry. End of story. If you have a 12-ounce mug, it's a standard 12-ounce mug, and you say, hey, I found this 12-ounce mug and it was cheaper at supplier C, can you match this price? And we will say, absolutely, every single time. If it is the same item or directly the same size, same shape, same thickness, all the things, we will match that price, not just for you, but for everyone in the industry, and we will permanently lower that price. End of story. No questions asked. Submit a ticket, say, hey, I saw it on this price. We ask that you give us a screenshot so that we can see what it is, so that we can do our research on our end. And then, we permanently lower it. And honestly, it helps us continue to do what we want to do, which is make sure that we can offer the lowest prices possible. But, we're not on competitors' websites. We're out here doing our own thing. We're not shopping all over the place, but our customers are doing it for us. Because if you find it somewhere else and you're like, hey, I think I saw that more expensive at Chesapeake, that's weird. And you go back and you're like, yeah, that's $1 more expensive. Send us an email. We'll change it like that. It takes me 2 minutes. I literally look at it and go, oh shit. And I go in there and change it. Oh, sorry.
No, it's fine.
That's awesome. And I have actually started, I think, getting my stroking codes from you guys, for almost that reason, to be honest with you. And it's nice. So I just wanted to make sure we touched that real quick. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yay.
Do you need a job?
I know, right?
I don't know. Am I killing one?
From Baltimore to Pittsburgh is a heck of a commute, though.
It's just winter.
Yes, it's just winter. That's my going to be excuse for everything moving forward.
It's winter.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate all the information. I'm sure we'll probably have you on here again so we can ask you even more questions and hear more stories. I definitely appreciate all of the knowledge, and I do feel like I had an episode with Beyonce because I'm telling you, I think I knew about you before I even met you. So,
well, thank you. I'm happy that we got to hang out for a little bit.
Yeah,
and also now you have my cell phone number. Did you write it down?
She doesn't have to. It's recorded.
Rehear it just so I could be like
515-230-6664.
When you get a message randomly that says Pink's coming to Pittsburgh, you'll know.
It'll be you. Awesome. I would love that if people just like text me, hey, Pink's gonna be in my city. Are you coming? Because the answer might be yes. I've seen Pink twice. I would love to see her everywhere. I could just be her number one fan.
I would be number 2. I'm fine with that. So, Stoneware and Pink.
That's the name of this episode.
Pink and Stoneware, I think.
I was going to say, I think I did that wrong, but that's...
Yeah, you did. It's fine. It's fine.
Wow. Well, thank you again, Bre. We love to have you. We'll see you next week.
Next week?
Yep, you're on forever. Sorry.
Oh, great. Awesome.
Thanks everybody for listening. I guess I am leading into the outro here. Like and subscribe. I'm so bad at this part. Christine, you take over. I'm so tired.
This has been another day with Glazed Over.
How do I stop recording? There we go.
I don't know.
Glazed Over is brought to you by the CCSA, the Contemporary Ceramic Studios Association. Thank you to our moderators, Amy Williams and Christine Steele. Executive production by Louise Blazucki. Learn more about the CCSA at ccsaonline.com.